What did I say about romances working before? Somebody tell me. Hello and welcome to another questionable review. Today we are continuing my search for love. We are going to be looking at Katie McGarry's series, specifically Pushing the Limits and Breaking the Rules. I know that there were other books in this series, but I just wasn't interested in reading about any boy that wasn't Noah. So the first book, Pushing the Limits, has been one of my all-time favourites for a long time, but I've never really liked the second book. I think I've only read it twice or something like that. But I was determined to like the sequel this time because, you know, I'm a grown-up now and I'm not going to fall into the trap of only reading romance novels that feature the start of a relationship, which is, you know, most commonly thought of as the fun part. I got it into my head that I wanted to read about relationships that were ongoing and about, you know, actual couples working together to go through the mutual problems. And Breaking the Rules seemed like a really good place to start with that, considering it's characters that I know and love. So let's get into Pushing the Limit. The plot follows Echo and Noah. It goes from both of their perspectives, which does take out some of the mystery of the romance plot. Like, usually you can have a bit of a, oh, does the love interest like them or not? And you can play around with the uncertainty of it for a little while. But other than that, I think that telling a romance story from both perspectives is a good idea because we get to really know both of the characters and be inside their heads. And that's what really can make us fall for them. And also it kind of makes it equal opportunities, so, you know, regardless of which gender you may be attracted to, there's somebody for you to fall in love with from either perspective. Echo and Noah are both seeing the same therapist at their school for different reasons. Echo has repressed memories, so here we go, tragic past all over again. All I can say is that at least Noah's not musically inclined, so there's 1 point for originality. There was some incident with Echo's mother the previous year, and it has resulted in Echo having scars on her arms, but she can't remember anything about it. And so she's working through the therapist to rediscover those memories or learn to work through, you know, all of her stuff. Whereas Noah is kind of in a lot of trouble at school. He's a foster kid and he doesn't really try very hard, and we find out that this is because he's been separated from his 2 younger brothers whom he loves very much. The two of them don't really like each other at first, which is always fun to read about. It's overplayed, but it's a lot better than Insta-love. I would like to see a few more romances where the 2 main characters start out as friends, like they've already had an established friendship beforehand, but I haven't really seen many that have gone that direction that have worked out well, because obviously we've discussed the whole problem of established relationships being important to us because we don't get to see them grow. But eventually, obviously, Noah and Echo fall for each other and we get to see them work through their individual problems as a unit. I really love Noah, and there's no particular definable one reason for it. It's just kind of everything that makes up his character. But one thing that I will say is that he's kind of a subversion of the bad boy trope that I have come to hate so much. He looks like the stereotypical bad boy from the outside, but once you get to know him, you see that he only fits that stereotype so much because he knows that's what everybody expects to see. And so he doesn't do anything to counteract their idea of him, because why should he? Noah's actually a really stand-up guy, and anything that he does do that is a bit, you know, not considered morally the norm or whatever, he's actually very honest about. Like drugs, he does some drugs, but you know, there is a debate about whether that is morally right or not. And also, if he is to have, you know, meaningless sex with some bint, then, you know, he is honest with said bint and lets her know that his intentions do not go beyond that. And, you know, that's more stand up than a lot of the guys that I've met in my life. So, you know, Noah actually turns out to be very sweet and caring, and he's very protective of both his blood relatives and his brothers, but also the relatives that he has accumulated through being in foster care, his friends Beth and Isaiah. I really don't want to say anything too much about this book because I really do recommend that you go and read it for yourself if you like romances, or kind of maybe if you don't. I feel like the romance isn't focused on too overtly, and both of them have their own stuff going on. And this is another reason why I think the dual perspective thing works, because I find that in romances, there's not a lot of other things that you can have going on. And unless you make the B plot something completely ridiculous like kidnap or murder, then it's going to seem really slice of life and not the kind of thing that I would normally be into reading. If you're not really accustomed to romances, it can seem very slow paced and almost boring. So having this dual perspective thing allows you to pad out your plot a little bit more with different problems that both of the characters are having as opposed to just one. Go and read Pushing the Limits. Just do it. You won't regret it. And now we come to the reason that I didn't read any more of Katie McGarry's books, even though it stands to reason that I would enjoy her other romances, considering I enjoyed this one. And that reason is the sequel to Pushing the Limits, Breaking the Rules, in which Echo and Noah go on like a road trip, and Echo's selling some paintings at her galleries, and Noah's kind of considering speaking to his mother's family, who he's only just found out existed. And, you know, it's a whole big mess. So I've told you the reason that I really wanted to like this sequel, and once again, I found that it was really boring. But to my credit, I don't think that that was because I was reading about a relationship that was already established and, you know, so the exciting bit was over. What I do think it was is that this book fell into a lot of the old and really cliched romance tropes, such as like the, you know, just constant misunderstandings between the two main characters that were so trivial and stupid, but caused these chapter-long arguments. But then there were also issues that they had where the issue would crop up and then it would be solved the next page. It all seemed so meaningless. It seemed like this sequel had been put together and the drama between Noah and Echo was just being created in order so that this sequel could exist. And I would much rather there would be drama outside of the relationship that the two of them had to deal with as a team, as they got to know each other better, because they didn't really have a lot of time to get to know each other better in the last book, and it would have been interesting to see how their two kind of very different personalities worked when faced with the challenge of being a thing in the real world, you know? But unfortunately, we did not get that, and as a result, I really struggled to get through this book. I really wanted to finish it because I couldn't remember what happened and I wanted to know how it all played out, just so I had that closure in my mind. But I honestly can't say that I enjoyed it. So that's not to say that it was all terrible. There were some aspects of the book that were good. Like, I enjoyed getting to meet Echo's mum. She was a character that wasn't really around in the first book, and we only got to see a few little snippets of her. Most of it was in memory, so we didn't really get to know her as her own character. We only had what other characters had to say about her and what we had been told about the past. So it was nice to get to meet the real person, almost. And there were also just some good straight up sex scenes, which, you know, I'm kidding. The sex scenes were terrible. No, I'm kidding about that as well. So once again, I was very disappointed by the sequel, but, you know, who can be surprised if I didn't like it the first time? Why would I like it this time? I'm just an idiot. So I think that's going to be it for today. I can't really think of anything more I want to say about any of this. I just wanted to talk about how disappointing the sequel is. You know, I just wanted to whinge on the internet for a little bit because everybody else does it. So this has been a really questionable review. I hope you join me again next time. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe we're going to talk about Jenny Han. I don't know. Why would I know? See you next time.